Boo! Happy Halloween. Did I scare you guys?
Yeah, terrifying.
Terrified you. Happy Halloween and welcome to the Jeremiah Show.
Woo!
You had better wake up because you're in a nightmare with my special guests, the best of the Nightmare on Elm Street cast. ANDRAS Jones is back on the show with Danny Hassel, his good friend from the Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, it's Halloween. It's fitting, right? Is it too obvious that we're doing this together? Welcome, guys. Let me tell you real quickly before I bring you in. I don't know if you don't know the Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know where you've been, but let's say you were just born and you're starting to watch horror movies. Let me tell you about the franchise. Began with the film A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, which was written and directed by Wes Craven. And the plot centers around Freddy Krueger, the apparition of a former child killer who was burned alive by the vengeful parents of his victims and who returns from the grave to terrorize and kill the teenage residents of Springfield, Ohio. Oh my God, in their dreams, which in turn kills them in reality. The Nightmare films have earned their place on that short list of Hollywood's most iconic horror films, giving us a boogeyman that, try as we might, we cannot wake up from. The 11 Nightmare films have collectively grossed $472 million at the box office worldwide. Most of that went to these two cast members here today, ANDRAS Jones and Danny Hassel, and they're living a lap of luxury. I can't believe I got them on the radio show today, but it is Halloween, and that's what they do on Halloween. Okay. ANDRAS Jones played Rick Johnson. He was one of the lead characters, obviously, in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. What makes Rick so special is he's an avid martial artist. And Danny Hassel played the jock, Dan Jordan. He made it through 2 films. A teenager, he was stalked by the razor glove boogeyman, Freddy. And 1988's A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. In real life, though, ANDRAS Jones is a television and film actor. He's an author and a musician. He's an amazing musician. In fact, we're going to play and debut again here. Can I say debut twice?
Sure.
Debut. Absolutely no sense of humor, which he does have, but Andy Dick does not. And it's starring, actually, Andy Dick. It's a great video on YouTube. I watched it twice this week already. I'm racking up numbers on your YouTube channel there for you, Andras. It's a great video, shot very well, and the song is amazing. So yeah, that's Andras Jones, and there's so much more to him, but we'll have him tell all about himself. Well, you know, I want to mention the Radio 8-Ball. It's a great podcast. It confuses me every time. A musical divination show, in which participants the questions are answered by picking songs at random and interpreting the randomly chosen songs as the answer to the question. You just have to tune in. Andras was nominated for a Young Artist Award for Best Young Actor and a Horror of a Mystery Motion Picture, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Welcome back, Andras. And Danny Hassel is an actor, and he's best known, again, for the Nightmare on Elm Street series, I guess. Danny, is that a fair assessment?
Unless you were a fan of the Outsiders TV series like I was.
Oh,
Dan played one of the Soshas.
See that, you know, when you read up on people, they say that you're best known, and maybe you are, but I always feel like
David American Army Ranger. So I've done other things other than and I was on the Outsiders, the series. They never play that piece of moviness. No, it was a series, and I was a Soch. Me and myself and this guy named David Arquette were buddies, and David Arquette played Ponyboy.
And I don't think people heard that first thing you said. You were an Army Ranger for how many years?
Oh yeah, from 2002 to about 2009-ish. So you're welcome for that as well.
Thank you for your service. No, I didn't see that. I didn't read that, and I've been reading for hours now about you guys. So I didn't see that, but Outsiders. What a great book. I don't think I caught the TV series. Is it streaming
Yeah.
out there anywhere?
It's still out there. Never really. Well, it's definitely still out there. Robert Russler, who's also in Nightmare on Elm Street, he is on it. He is the character that Patrick Swayze. I can't remember everybody's names and all that right now, but anyhow, it was yeah, it was really well. What it was really expensive, and it shot at Paramount. I think they did the whole series, and then back then, I don't know if this is true or not, but they just put you up against Knights. You had to beat this other show called 90210. So
Oh my God. Well, that's what happened then. I remember those days.
Moving it to Tuesday night or Wednesday night or whatever. They were, because it was actually a really good show with a bunch of really good actors, and it was a period piece, so it was like Greasers, Socials, whatever.
Yeah, I bet it was. I'm gonna check it out. But did I miss it? Did you say, do you know where you can find it, or did you say it?
Oh, I mean, I have no idea.
I think it's just on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it.
If they ever did, what they would do is make it a what do you call it, like a movie made from movie or something, when they put movies on television that last more than the series, and they would combine every time. They would use my episode where the Socials and the Greasers got in a big fight, and then there was a tornado or whatever. But when it ever did air, people would say, "Oh my God, yeah, I saw it." I go, "You did? Holy crap!" No way.
Well, there's kind of a cult following after that story too, right? Even the movie, and there's people really love that story. I'm gonna find it. Well, and Tuesday night was going to be here, and she's not feeling well, so I hope you feel better. And Tuesday we'll hopefully have you on some other time. So, but I'm very happy to have both of you guys on today. I know that, and I'm thankful because I know how hard you're working around this time of year. You just got back from the Spooky Empire convention in Florida, and it's basically the dark side of Comic-Con, right? That's kind of how they describe it, featuring horror and sci-fi.
They did. It's just it's 100% Comic-Con spinoff, but they took it to a whole different level, where they have musicians and obviously horror is the central theme. But if you did one horror film and you're still a big celebrity, unlike myself, you will be there. This weekend. I sat across from Harry Hamlin, Kiefer Sutherland, and Jenna Jameson. So do the math. I don't know.
Leave poor Lou Diamond Phillips out of it. It was a young gun.
Poor guy.
I apologize to him. I forgot him as well. So I'm just saying, real weekend. It was fun.
Yeah, there's a tattoo festival as well, right? I mean, aside the music and the other things you mentioned. What is that? A tattoo festival? Is it like showing off your art?
Well, you know what? We actually ran into a couple of the tattoo artists the first night there. And yeah, they just, it's different, but it makes sense. It's on brand. A lot of the people who come to these cons are pretty well tatted up. Although I'm not. You, Danny, or do you have any tattoos?
No.
Yeah,
however, I've seen a million Freddy Krueger tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Believe it or not, I've seen myself as the character from the movie tattooed on a guy as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How'd that make you feel? Scared or proud?
I've had multiple responses. Some people are like, who in the F would do that? Or like, that's really cool. So it's kind of 50-50. But I saw it with my own eyes. I was on some dude's arm as Dan.
That guy's gonna live the rest of his life with you on his arm and die that way. That's pretty cool.
He's got not only me, he's got Heather Langenkamp, Mark Patton, and of course Robert England. It was a whole slew of Nightmare on Elm Street cast on his big arm.
Yeah, I'm not jealous.
Yeah, where's Andras?
Yeah, okay.
You're on his lower back there, Andras. He just didn't want to show you. All right. So is this a really busy time of year for you? For both of you?
Yes.
Like this. You probably get a lot of requests like this request. to come on this show, but you're at the conventions. What else? What's it like? It's describe this time of year for you.
Go ahead, Andras.
Well, for me, it's kind of funny. I mean, Jeremiah, you know me as a musician, and until very, very recently, as in like this month, I have always tried to keep them very separate. Like, I live my life as a musician and a writer and a sometimes actor, and I sometimes get invited to this place where for a weekend with the right people there, they see me as a movie star. If I'm with Danny and Tuesday and Toy and Brooke and Lisa and Robert, and I've never so my life feels very separate from Nightmare stuff. And a lot of times, like, I learned years ago that if I just accepted everyone who wanted to be my friend on Facebook, if they were a Nightmare person, then I would just I would blow through my limit. I don't know if there's still a limit on names of friends that you can have, but there used to be. And so, like, I would only accept friends on Facebook from people who I had actually met at cons or actually wrote to me personally. If someone just friended Rick, I would reject it. So I just have always kept that. A lot of times people invite me to do interviews about Nightmare, and I'm just like, unless you've got some interesting new question, I've said everything I could possibly say about it. So for me, it has always been at arm's length. And it's really only now that I've been sort of realizing, oh, this group of people have grown up. We've grown up together. Yeah. And maybe they might be interested in what I'm doing musically. And even though I don't have cool tattoos and my music isn't heavy metal, and I don't look like Billy Worth, all cool things to be, but that's not me. So I guess my answer is, like, really Halloween is really has usually been just another day for me, unless we get invited to a con, in which case then I'm right in the belly of it and, loving it, which is actually kind of funny because I kind of do end up in the belly of Freddy Krueger in the film.
Let me ask Danny, is it a blessing, do you think, that how many films can we all say? I mean, we grew up through that time period. And how many films are so iconic that people invite you to cons, that they want your autographs for the film, that they've tattooed characters on their bodies? I mean, there are not a lot of films that people care about that much. So, and what is it, a blessing or is it a curse, or is it a little bit of both?
Blessing. I think it's like people who have went to the moon. It's like so rare and niche, like the most niche fame weirdness, that you constantly have to tell people who you are and how famous you are, because you're part, not because yourself, but you're in a movie that got killed by Freddy Krueger, and as soon as you say Freddy Krueger, heads will turn around. He's big as Michael Jackson, Beyonce, you name it, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then just to be in I'm not saying because I was in it, but Nightmare 1, 3, and 4 are legendary. And I'm in 5, and 5 is slow and not really that good. And I'm just saying, even though I'm in the movie, but 1, 3, and 4 are out of control good for that stuff. That's what I think. So the only way I can compare it to, it's either like a sports guy who was like the Super Bowl champ, or the Yankees that won the World Series in like 79, and you played third base and like 5 people really remember who you are. You know what I mean? Or like the bass player in a band that was #1, and you're like, yeah, dude, and you're like, that guy, that one dude, and that's walk through the airport and people don't give two, they don't care, and then later they're like, no way. So you get to cruise through this crazy world where that's what it's like, where people will walk past Kiefer Sutherland and hug me. So that's crazy, because we never, we didn't make any of the paper that New Line did. We just happened to be in the band totally in the band too, like holding it down.
In Freddy's band.
Both of us had big parts. So it's hysterical. And then yes, this time of year, I didn't realize till about 2017 that yes, just take advantage of it. We get invited to the weirdest things you could imagine.
Have you ever gotten mad at a fan or just been like, I've had enough? I'm doing other things now. I've got a podcast. I'm in a band. I've got great music I'm putting out. Just get away from trying to distance yourself. I can see, Andras, that would be hard when you were.
Well, when I was
maybe if you're trying to create a new, you're doing new things creatively and you're known for and remembered for something that maybe you don't want.
You got to remember. In the 90s, there was a lot of prejudices. People didn't like, if you were an actor, if you were a musician, you did not want people to think of you the way they thought of Rick Springfield and Bruce Willis and actors doing vanity music projects. Mm-hmm. And so I just got a lot of that noise in my head from representatives and people, just people in the world. And it is, I don't know about you, Danny, but it's been weird for me. Like for 12 years, 10 years or so, I was working as a bartender in the Northwest, and I wouldn't come in and tell people, oh, I'm this guy from this movie or whatever. But then eventually I'd be working there for a while and someone would come in and be like, hey, were you in Nightmare on Elm Street, or were you in Saved by the Bell or whatever? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I was. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. Look at that. I can't believe it. A week later, I'll be like, hey, could you hand me that rag over there? It's like, oh, Mr. Hollywood wants me to get him a rag. I'm like, no, I don't have that's you. That's not me. I didn't say that. But it's actually kind of why I had to move back to LA, because it's like in LA, everyone treats me like a piece of shit, even if they know what I've been in. But in Olympia, where I grew up, people get impressed about it and think that means that I'm impressed about it, and then it just kind of spirals. It's weird. It's weird being in movies that isn't. Especially a big one like this where it doesn't make you famous, huh?
No, I have a parallel story. It doesn't matter, because, like you said, if it's so big that as soon as people find out and it blows their mind, they assume that we're gazillionaires or we were complete jerk offs and we lost all our money somehow, you know what I mean? So you get that part of it's hysterical, because I still lie to people. Even in LA, I just got recently, they find out that you're in this movie no matter what, and then you say, hey, I'm getting invited to this gig. They're like, oh, you got something better to do. You know? And
you can't win.
And it's hysterical. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. That's a fair thing to say. That's a double-edged sword. It's hysterical. But people find out, like you said, just because acting, for some reason, if you do acting, everyone there's certain people that high-five you and hug you, and they think it's super cool. I mean, normal people do that. Other people kind of fold their arms and kind of look at you and go, yeah, I think I can do that. And women, all the above. Women just kind of go, yeah, whatever. Miracle. And you're like, really? Have a go at it. You know what I mean? Like, knock yourself out. So it's just
get your own towel, Mr. Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. I never tell people. I remember I got a funny story about auditioning. Back in our day, we used to audition, and there would be like literally a curtain like that behind you. You know, listen to all these ding dongs do their thing while you're about to do yours, you know. And then later you walk out, and some of the actors would be like, "Hey man," and I'll be like, "Hey, bad luck, everybody." Because it's like trying out for sports or whatever, but it's really hard. So all these people that do that have never done it, I always tell them, knock yourself out while your arms are folded, just thinking that I've just screwed off millions of dollars somehow because I'm in Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
Yeah, I read that.
That's why we go to, they say it's like, it's cool you go to the cons. It's like, no, we go to the cons because people are paying us more money than we get paid.
You
do
have
other
Is it
things.
is it like your time of the year to kind of clean up it or put sock some money away? So
Well, no, there are cons all year long. It's not it for people like Robert, for the people who do them regularly, like Tuesday and Lisa, like me and Dan, we get invited. If we get invited to like 3 or 4 a year, that's a good year, right, Dan?
No, he's right. You have to get invited. There's a whole convention circuit that I didn't even know existed till about, like I said, like 2016, 2017. And so there's there's a whole stupid racket of like, agents and blah, 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 and merch and it's like a rack. It's actually a tour. And so you go, and it's year round. And if you have something current, I mean, I'm telling you, just like, I'm sitting next to like years ago and like Rutger, people that were like established actors, and they said to me, "Hey man, if you get invited to these things, you better go do it, because it's not like how it works." And however, there's still all these like sidebar crappy people and lowest common denominator artists, and they're all like on the con circuit as well, like people in fan films calling themselves Freddy Krueger trying to get autographs. It's bizarre. Like, it's embarrassing. It's
a
super
bizarre world, isn't it?
it's
Have you guys ever had a fan that you've been really scared of? Just like, oh man, get me out of here.
I wouldn't say anyone I was scared. Like basically, there's a lot of the people are just super normal, super down to earth. I mean, it's a little weird, that they're a family that all watches horror films together. But I've had to learn that for some people, horror is actually very comforting in a way that it isn't for me. Like for me, I can't take it. So there's that group of people. And then there's just people who are just kind of there's definitely people who are uncomfortable, on the spectrum somewhere. Like I had this guy come up and he was very respectful, but but you could tell he was a little bit like zoned or whatever. And he was just sort of like, I really like this series, and I don't like your character. It's okay, I like the series, and I appreciate your being in it. I wouldn't say you shouldn't be in it, but I don't like you, and I don't like your character, and I really didn't like your death scene, and I'm saying 98% of the people are coming up and being like, "Oh my God, Rick, I love you so much." So for me, it's not an ego thing. It's just like, oh, this is kind of cool that this person. Usually, the people who feel that way just walk on by, But I wouldn't say it's scary, but there are. I would say every day at a con, or at least once or twice at every con, there's someone who you feel like just the energy. You're gonna stay with that conversation. It's gonna be 10 minutes, and you're gonna be counseling them more than engaging with them and getting energy back and forth. But I would say, and for the most part, and online, I've definitely had people who were shitty to me, but and threatened my life. But I don't take that too seriously.
Really?
I agree. I have such crazy parallel stories. Like what's it called? We are, like I said, really weird niche famous, and 99% of the people that come to cons are, maybe they have tattoos, but they're just, and that horror is their deal. That's what they're super into. It's like rock and roll for people who are into Ozzy Osbourne or Sabbath back, and you're like, whoa, you guys worship the devil or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's some that. But again, the people on the edge. So I went to I was invited to Comic-Con as because big celebrities, I guess, back out, and then they give you like D-list celebrities get like a table. I'm like, no way. So I got myself and Ricky Dean Logan get invited because we're from the 80s to Comic-Con. And so, we're there with like Harrison Ford when they were doing the new Blade Runner. It was just so dumb for us to be there. But because we had this row of the 80s superstars, no, myself, Bai Ling, Ricky Dean Logan, Tawny Katane, I was like, all right, cool. She was there. So anyhow, on the way in, okay, I realized how big Comic-Con actually is. I'm like, holy moly, you can't even get from across the street to wherever, and you got to have all this stuff. And the swag bag alone that they gave me was worth like $1,000. You know, I was like, and then they tell you don't sell your stuff because you get all these cool pins and backpacks and all this crap. So we took the train from A to B, and as we're going in, this kid, not a kid, however old, past teenage, maybe teenage, I don't know, all these buttons on his jacket. And he says straight to my face, or no, the mom first, he says something to me, and then the mom cuts him off like, no. Because the mom, like, nobody knows who I am. We're on the tram, you know, I don't have a limo or nothing. And so the kid goes, Dan Jordan, and just like full Rain Man'd out and said, like, you're Dan Jordan, Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. And then now I'm looking at his denim jacket and I see all the pins on it, and I see a couple Nightmare on Elm Street pins amongst the other buttons and smiley faces and kitty cats and whatever, Pokemon and all that crap. And I'm like, wait, what'd you say? And then he fully went on and he goes, Dan Jordan, you were Dan Jordan, just like you said, Andras. He is, you know, and the mom kept apologizing. I go, ma'am, no, let him go. I am Dan Jordan. And then she's like, oh, and then she looked at me, and then my wife was looking at me. I looked at everybody. Oh my God. I go, and then he told me the whole movie and told me about myself, the movie and everything. And I go, holy moly. So I reached in my bag of merch, because I was going there, and I signed every single piece of stupid merch that I had and gave it to them, because they didn't even have tickets. They were just going.
It was what a good guy you are.
No, I was like, still, like, I'm not joking. I am not making that story up. And so it was like the heaviest.
Or were you trying to buy him off so he didn't super fan out on you?
He went,
hey, I got to take a break, guys, real quick. This is great. I am so happy to have both of you on. I have Andras Jones on today. Go to previouslyyours.com to follow and do everything. Just don't corner him on a tram. But you can do everything else on this website, previouslyyours.com, and on Instagram at Andras Jones. Danny Hassel on Instagram at Danny Hassel, Hassel. And the music soundtrack, I'm actually taking us to break with Tuesday night's Nightmare.
Running from this nightmare, right?
Is it running from this nightmare?
I think so.
I thought it said.
Is it just Nightmare? Right? I don't know. You're the DJ. You know what's going on.
I may not know. It could be. You probably know better than I do. But that was what came up on when I got the link to it on YouTube.
Cool. It's a great song.
20 seconds and it's a jam. It's the freaking soundtrack to that movie, kind of the intro.
Yeah. It's like sold. It's like one of the craziest hits right off that movie soundtrack. At the end of the show, though, Andras Jones, absolutely no sense of humor. We're gonna play the entire song. And the video is starring Andy Dick. It's great. You gotta check it out on YouTube. We will be right back with two of my favorite cast members from Nightmare on Elm Street. Andras Jones, Danny Hassel. Be right back.